Good evening. Welcome to a special event on Cat Space, or a special episode. I'm Kat. With me is Buckets, Luna, and Leon. Good evening.
Evening.
Hello. Okay, so firstly, we'd like to welcome the newest of newest new subscribers and current subscribers and viewers. Thank you so much for the love and the comments. We are seeing them. Don't forget to subscribe to us and let your friends know about us, because if you click that bell, it'll help us get more content out to you. So thank you so much for the love. Tonight's episode is another homegrown episode. As we are in 2024, we are at the beginning of the race to federal election 2025, and the campaigns have started rolling. So tonight's topic is called Australia, the race federal election. Question 1, Leon. Should Jacinta Price take over Peter Dutton's role to secure a win for the Liberal Party?
To be honest, I think she probably should, but I think she's a part national and she's a part country Liberal. If I understand her roles correctly, I think she should, because Well, I was just watching a special a short time ago. It was a special on Sky News from a couple of years ago when what's his name, Malcolm Turnbull got rolled, and Christopher Pyne, who was a former LMP member, said, for all Peter Dutton's, good intentions, Christopher Pyne could never see Peter Dutton as a leader. So, to be honest, I don't see it either. I agree with Christopher Pyne on that, but I would imagine if you bring in Jacinta Price, with her lineage and her legacy, that might give her, and also might give the LNP a decent run or a decent chance to win the next federal election.
Good point. Luna, same question, your answer, please. Should Jacinta Price take over Peter Dutton's role to secure a win for the Liberal Party?
Jacinta Price sure is popular amongst white conservative, because she says all the right things, she ticks all the right boxes, and seemingly still representing country and her heritage. In terms of taking over, will that secure a win? I would assume so, yes. As I said, she's very popular amongst white conservatives, and their votes take up a large part of this country. And if she were to take over for Peter Dutton, I believe that would be the best move for the Liberal Party to win if they were to have a chance.
Great answer. Buckets? Same question, your answer. Should Jacinta Price take over Peter Dutton's role to secure a win for the Liberal Party?
Well, the thing is, Jacinta Price is extremely popular. She was instrumental in basically failing the Voice and uniting Australia, which was a really, really, really big deal, because everyone felt divided when the yes vote was on. But the thing is, it was Dutton that has the one as opposition leader. It wasn't Jacinta Price. It's hard. It's actually hard to say because Dutton is unpopular. But every time the Labor Party screw up with anything, whether it's economics or stupid policies or the cost of living or anything like that, Peter Dutton's popularity goes up, and he doesn't actually have to do anything for his popularity to go up. He just has to watch the Labor Party fail. But to be honest, if you want to know who's more popular, it's definitely Jacinta Price. And if you want to win elections, you need Jacinta Price, even if she's deputy minister or prime minister. Okay, if you want to win this election, and you need to cover both white Australians and Aboriginal Australians and Australians of mixed races, you need Jacinta Price. Dutton's unpopularity has come up many times, and will definitely come up again. I guarantee it.
The only thing I want to say about this, and this is just my 2 cents, is I think Jacinta Price should be the front runner. As much as Peter Dutton is the opposition leader, I think having, as Bucky says, she's very popular. You guys have said it as well, as the voice of Parliament. She was her and Warren Mundine were the big players of that. And I think people listen to her, people believe her, people care about her, people love her, people admire her, and she certainly would make it her time to shine now instead of waiting for later. I think she would be a perfect candidate instead of Peter Dutton as the opposition leader. I think she'd be able to table a lot of issues and have them passed within Parliament. And she would have a lot of MPs behind her supporting her on her bills. So that's the only 2 cents I have. Next question, here we go. Leon, if Albanese were to run, what core topics would win him the election?
Well, he needs to tackle the cost of living and also the inflation, everything, because everything he's tried has actually gone backwards. I think the only thing that seems to be stabilizing right now is the inflation, but that's the only thing, because it's starting to it had just this steep climb, and only now, just recently, it's starting to level out. So I'm assuming that Peter Dutton is not Peter Dutton. I mean Anthony Albanese is hoping that that inflation curve starts to come down, and if it starts to come down right in time for the election, there'll be people who will probably go towards Anthony Albanese. So definitely, the cost of living is definitely a major issue at the moment. So the cost of everything has gone up by a lot more than the inflation rate. So that's a big problem. And also, my opinion, also the homeless problem as well. I think it goes back towards the cost of living, cost of everything at the moment. That's the only thing that will get him back. That will be the thing to run on. But at the same time, what will hurt him is the same issue, because under Anthony Albanese, you've had how many interest rate rises since he took office? And people will remember that. And if the interest rates don't come down, he'll be remembered as the Prime Minister who allowed 12 or 13 interest rate rises under his leadership.
Fair call. Great answer. Luna, if Albanese were to run, what core topics would win him the election?
Any lie that he'd like to spin and promise and then not keep, I guess. He's good at that. Everything that Leon just mentioned, obviously, he needs to tackle cost of living. It needs to be the first bloody thing on his agenda, and it needs to be fixed. As Peter Dutton's pointed out a couple of times, the government need to stop spending. The government need to stop just willingly spending. Okay, it's driving up this country's debt and inflation. While the bank's trying to get ahead of inflation, they can't, because the government just keeps spending. So I guess something around there, he needs to address all of these issues. He needs to actually do some steps to fix this and bring our country back into a point where we can get above inflation. Prices can come back down. Groceries will come back down. Rent should come back down. And hopefully people can stop needing to be so greedy just to survive.
Buckets. If Albanese were to run, what core topics would win him the election?
Okay, well, the number one thing that he needs to stop doing is funding stupid programs that have absolutely nothing to do with Australians. So he needs to stop spending $12 million into foreign football sides. That's one thing he needs to stop doing. He needs to stop going to Taylor Swift concerts and basically saying that he's representing Australia by doing it. He needs to stop going on 2GB and handing out tickets that aren't even his to pay for. The biggest one, obviously, is the cost of living crisis. If he's going to win the election, he actually has to make the promises that he's promised actually happen. He has to lower he actually has to create a rental freeze. because everyone has said it. The Greens have said it, One Nation have said it, Seals have said it, the Liberal Party have also said it. They've all said you need a rental freeze, and he's completely ignored that. Instead, he's just found ways for landlords to increase the rent. And he needs to really persecute Coles, Woolworths, and Aldi for raising the price of shopping too much, so the price gouging, because that's destroying the not only Australian economy, but it's stopping Australians from spending in other things. So if all the money is going towards the cost of living, then that means that Australians cannot purchase anything else. All they can do is just purchase food and rent, and that's it. That's all they can do. They can't go out to the movies. They can't go overseas. They can't do any of that because they simply don't have the money to. Okay, so if he needs to focus on the cost of living, the rental crisis, the housing crisis, I don't really think he has to worry about the education thing because he was pretty good with education. But it's just generally the cost of living, and he stops. Sorry.
And he also has to rein in Tony Burke, who just recently we just found out he went to a trip in the US and spent about $50,000 or something in 4 or 5 days. How is that helping? Because just about every one of us, we don't have $40,000 or $50,000 to play with.
No, and there's also other things where we had our financial minister basically saying, oh yeah, if you want to basically fight the cost of living in your home, why don't you just have more people live in your homes, and then going out and spending a $50,000 lunch on top of that. So I think that there is a lot of not only cost of living problems, but there's a lot of anger within the Australian people that these politicians are just mindlessly spending money like it's, you know, an all expenses paid holiday, whilst watching other Australians suffering to the point where they can't even get on public transport because they don't have enough money. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Fantastic. Next question. Here we go. Leon, how would Peter Dutton win the election, and what could he bring to the table?
Well, what Peter Dutton, I believe, has already announced, he's going to look into nuclear power. I believe that is a policy which the LNPs are now finally embracing, which means that we've got another option when it comes to electricity, because right now most of it is from coal, right? And the ALP have been wanting to switch to renewables like wind turbines and also solar, which is fine, right? But what needs to happen would be you need to have all these options in place actually going before you like shut down coal, because I know that's what the ALP have been wanting to do. They've been wanting to shut down the coal plants, and that's fine, right? You can do that, that's fine, but have everything in place before you shut it down, because if you start having blackouts, that's going to be on your head, and if somebody dies from that, that's on your conscience as well. So Peter Dutton and the LNP are already now embracing nuclear. That's good. That means that we've got everything in play now. I can't see Peter Dutton like shutting down the wind turbines or solar, right? As long as we've got that extra option, he's bringing in that extra option, which will help, and it will help keep electricity prices down at least.
Okay, cool. Luna, how would Peter Dutton win the election, and what could he bring to the table?
Peter Dutton, although being widely hated, has certain elements and old school values and traditions that may not help minority Australia, but will definitely help the majority of the overall all of us, and have a big impact on inflation, all that type of stuff. I watched something of his a couple of days ago. I believe he said something along the lines of he's noticed how the Labor Party spends. He obviously can see the budget and what they're spending it on and stuff like that. And although he has not put out a plan as to what he would do, he can definitely identify that we can't get above inflation and the cost of living because the government's spending too much, because it keeps investing in this thing and that thing and whatever else. I believe his old school principles, his toughness, having to say no to people, brings a certain seriousness to you. I believe that could possibly help him secure a win, if that makes sense. If he were to put out a plan of how he's going to help cost of living crisis Australia, and it's a good enough strategy, then I don't see how that wouldn't secure him a win.
Very cool. Buckets. How would Peter Dutton win the election, and what could he bring to the table?
Well, the first thing you could do is do away with woke politics, because although woke politics would be popular, a lot of it makes absolutely no sense and nearly drove our country to its absolute brink. And I kind of agree with Luna where she's saying that he needs to go back to those old school morals. After all, he was a police officer before he was a politician. So a lot of his politics is really based off that, right? Really based off his morals. I think that Peter Dutton, if he can increase jobs in this country, okay, if he can cut the cost of living in half, if he can invest in programs that not only make Australia wealthier, but also make Australia sustainable, I think he's won. I honestly think he's won, because we've tried the Labor model, which is to be kind to the environment and kind to all these woke ideology things, and it's basically creating cost of living problems. Okay. And I think that Peter Dutton's just one of those political characters that isn't afraid to speak the truth instead of sugarcoating policies. And therefore, I think it's time that if he can hold that, and if he doesn't try to sugarcoat things like Albanese is doing right now, then maybe people go, yep, that's what I need to hear, as opposed to you just kissing my ass. Excuse the language, of course. I think that's why we'll win it. People, if he's just directly truthful and has a real plan and has a way to fix Australia's problems, as opposed to sugarcoating everything, people will just vote him in.
My only 2 cents about this is he's a former police officer from Queensland. It's one big thing. He swore to uphold the law and citizens in the country. He's a politician. He still has to uphold the law. If he wins, the one thing no one has spoken about, well, they have with you guys have with Anthony Albanese about this, is that if he becomes our next prime minister, and the Greens come to him and say, we need a rental freeze, Anthony Albanese refused our rental freeze, would you team up with us for a rental freeze and we'll help you do what you need to do? So to say, we'll scratch your back if you scratch ours. I think because he's a former police officer, that I can see him looking into this issue and finding out how much money he's going to need to spend, where he needs to spend it at, how far this issue has gone, why it's not been resolved. And maybe if he's smart enough, he'll take the deal from the Greens and give people the rental freeze that they require, and he'll bring down inflation. And he'll say, enough is enough. You've been summoned to Parliament. Why are you still price gouging people? And I think if he looks at those files and works on them, people actually like him. Which comes down to my next question. Here we go. Is Peter Dutton popular enough to actually win Leon?
I don't believe he is. I don't believe Peter Dutton or Anthony Albanese are popular enough to actually secure an overall win. They're both not they're both not likable, but at the same time, if you have to pick one person that is more likable than the other, you'd probably have to go with Anthony Albanese strictly on the fact that he is the Prime Minister and he was there for a reason. I don't believe Peter Dutton is popular enough to win on his own. I think he's going to need like a ticket with someone like the likes of Jacinta Price, which you talked about earlier, in order to turn that around. I don't believe there is any other option for Peter Dutton at this point in time. But if there was an option, I'd probably consider having Jacinta Price as your running mate for the next election.
I like that. Luna, same question, your response, please. Is Peter Dutton popular enough to actually win?
No,
Oh,
definitely not. However, I will say this. I do believe whoever puts aside the politics of politics and is willing to implement a plan, put it out for the public to see it before an election, even, this is what I would plan to do if I'm elected type of thing. If they stop giving in to, I can't release my plan until I'm actually in office, like, stop doing all of that. Whoever's going to be the more mature person and do what's right for Australia and put something out is going to be the person that wins. Australians are sick of feeling divided. Australians are sick of feeling like we're everything's going wrong with our financials or our home life or work or grocery shopping, for all things. Like, come on, you're not safe anywhere right now. And yeah, whoever will put out a plan to tackle that problem and actually show us that they're going to do something instead of just talking, then they'll win. So if he's going to do that, then he'll 100% secure the win. No doubt in my mind.
I love your truthful and your honesty and cutthroat. Buckets, are you that cutthroat? Is Peter Dutton not popular enough to win?
Peter Dutton is only popular because the Albanese government keeps screwing up. That is it. Okay, if the Albanese government did not screw up, Dutton would not be popular at all. Seriously. And I find it interesting in the previous government, Scott Morrison was in power. Everyone hated Peter Dutton. So it's an actual miracle that he even got voted in to be opposition leader to begin with, because the rest of his party got absolutely whitewashed last time. Granted, it was COVID, you had those sorts of problems, and everyone wanted to get out and they couldn't. But it was an absolute whitewash. So I think, it's a bit like saying if you give someone enough rope, let them hang themselves. And I think Dutton is pretty much counting on that. Look, Dutton needs Jacinta Price or Warren Moffat. Okay, and without those politicians, they won't win, even if they make some sort of deal with the Greens, which I don't think they will, because traditionally the Greens always support the left, which is Labor. They won't win. So unless the Liberal Party literally says we need to have a rental freeze, they won't win. And all the power will most likely go to all the independents, and they'll just become one big party.
Good answer. Next question. And this is where you guys will have to really think hard about this. Here we go. Who has a high likability in this coming election, Leon?
Who has a higher likability? Oof.
Wait,
That is a good point. I don't think, like I said in the last answer, neither of these guys are likable. But I reckon, switch it up a bit and have, say, someone like the likes of Jacinta. That she is very likable and she is very down to earth. And you said Warren Mundine as well. They are very likable. I think it'd be like Jacinta Price running for a seat, she'd win that. Warren Mundine almost certainly would win that as well, because they're respected, and even though they have their opinions and sometimes they disagree on a few things, they're respectful, and also they've got the lineage. Jacinta Price, maybe Warren Mundine, they are the more likable. They'll be the more likable people in this upcoming election, because I don't see any of these other guys likable, to be honest. I don't particularly like Anthony Albanese, and I don't particularly like Peter Dutton. Please forgive me, because if they find out where I live, I'm going to be fodder for days.
I love it. Luna, who has a high likability in this up and coming election?
Keep on continuing the way they are now. No one wants that. And out of all the most unlikely of people in the entire realms of Australia, Peter Dutton's looking like the likely subject that's going to be, selected next up, perhaps, if Labor continues this way. But truthfully, neither. Exactly, neither. I don't, like, when I think about it, how I would want to go in and have a vote and think about this topic, picking either right now, both have their downfalls. You just got to go with the option that's like the least shit. Do you know what I mean? They're both shit, but which one's the lesser shit of the shitter? So yeah, I really don't know how to answer that question fully, truthfully.
Sorry. Buckets. Who has a higher likability to win this election?
It's interesting because I think the independents have the higher likability, to be honest. Who's the leader of the Greens right now in the federal election? That's
Max. Oh my God, Max.
Yeah.
Love him.
Like, he is like the Trudeau of Australia at the moment. Like, he is really likable, okay? I mean, sure, he's in the Greens, and there's some policies I don't agree with him. But as far as his likability is really up there. So I think the top three at the moment, there's got to be Max. The second one is Jacinta Price. Third one, Warren Mundine. And after that would have to be Dutton, purely because he's not Albanese. And after that, you've got Albanese. Okay.
Don't forget, the Greens took a hit in the recent by-election.
They did, but that's like that's one sector. Okay, but if you were to ask me who's more popular, it's definitely Max over Albanese. Okay, definitely. Okay, everyone hates Albanese.
Right. If we're speaking just Dutton and Albanese, you're going Dutton, aren't you? Every time, right? In the current state that Australia is in.
If Max was going for Prime Minister of Australia, I'd vote him in. Like, there'd be no question about it, right? But because you've got Dutton, Albanese, Jacinta Price, and Mundine thrown in the mix, I'm sorry, but Jacinta Price and Warren Mundine trumps pretty much everyone, and Max is coming in really high as well. Okay, Dutton, like I said, Dutton is only popular because he's doing pretty much the opposite of everything that Albanese is doing, or he's not doing anything at all. He's just watching. He just keeps questioning all of Albanese's decisions without actually doing anything himself. And people just kind of look at that and go, "Oh yes, I totally agree that Dutton's right." But he's technically not doing anything either. So, but the only one doing any real work here is Jacinta Price and Warren Mundine.
For me, I agree with all of you. For me, my highest list begins with girl power, and that is Jacinta Price. Jacinta Price is an incredible human being. She fought, and she fought hard. I really can picture her as our Prime Minister one day. Beside her is Mr. Warren Mundine. If she becomes Prime Minister, I I don't know if this will happen, but I'm hoping she'll put him as deputy prime minister. He's honest, he's open, he's truthful, he's wise.
And he's also very, very smart.
And he's very smart. And Jacinta Price speaks eloquently. The next person for me, Max. Max, he's young, he's well educated, smart, obviously very charming, very good looking. So he's good, eye candy for females. And he's also a renter. He actually said on TikTok in Parliament, I am a renter. So he knows what it's like for us currently because he's going through it.
Can I say one thing? When asked about what Australians should do with the cost of living with Woolworths, when we had the whole Australia Day debacle going on, Peter Dutton's response to that was, let's just boycott Woolworths. Now, as much as I felt the need to actually do that and go shop at the local IGA or shop at the local Asian Mart to get my Australia Day stuff, it was Warren Mundine that literally said, no, don't boycott Woolworths, because if you boycott Woolworths, then there's like 6,000 people that will lose their jobs. And I think he was the only smart one to actually say that. So that's why I think Warren Mundine is to be honest, is smarter than Peter Dutton, to be honest.
I was going to say my last option would be Peter Dutton, because if he's going to be our prime minister, he has to clean up the mess of the Labor government. So I just think this is going to be one nasty bitter fight. Next question, we're reaching the end. Here we go. Question 6. As the independents are becoming more popular than majority government, what could the independents bring to the table if they are to unite, Leon?
Oh, wow. If I was an independent, I would be moving the same way that the Greens are. They want a rent freeze. I would tend to solidify that position. And because the way that the election seems to be going at the moment, even though there's still a long ways away, and I don't believe any party is going to have overall majority without having to deal with independents or Greens, I would say I would put a rent freeze on the table. And I think and they've also got to tackle the cost of living. They've got to tackle the cost of living as well. But I think that their main course of action would be a rent freeze, because a lot of people are doing it tough. You guys are doing it tough. I am fully aware of that. But a lot of other people who rent are doing this tough, and I think the rent freeze would be the way to go. That'd be the way to start things up. So if you're an independent, and say if either one of those parties do not have overall majority, I would put a rent freeze right on the table, because that way one of these parties is going to have to take it, whether they like it or not.
Great answer. I love it. Luna, as the independents are becoming more popular than majority government, what could the independents bring to the table if they are to unite?
I don't know how deep into the policy it would go if they're united. I don't know if that's going against the Constitution. It is possible. They are meant to be the independents, they're meant to have a debate here and there on this side, on that side, debate Liberal, Labor. However, if they are able to somehow miraculously all unite on the same thing, they really hold a lot of power into, number one, who's going to get elected, number two, who's going to be popular, whose policies they're going to agree with. I mean, in saying so, if politics, you have to play the game, although that playing it illegally is wrong. I don't see why, if somehow they were able to all come together in the thought that tackling Australia's biggest problems right now is the most important thing, and help secure a win to whatever party's going to do that the best for us, then that there lies their power. They have a lot of swing in some of their debates. So yeah.
Great answer. Buckets. Your turn. As the independents are becoming more popular than majority government, what could the independents bring to the table if they are to unite?
Okay, so the number one thing that all the independents have in common is they all have family values. So one nation has family values, right? There may be nuclear family values, but they're still family values. That's the one thing that unites them all. Okay. The second thing that unites all of the independents is, like again, the rental freeze that Leon and Luna keep bringing up, and myself keep bringing up. That's another family value, to be able to afford to live in the house that you're in. Okay. And to be able to afford, household goods and basic groceries just to be able to survive. I think that's the one thing that all those independent parties pretty much have in common. They all want these family values, being able to be able to afford the cost of living. They're slightly different. I mean, one nation has slightly different policies. They don't want extra immigrants coming in and whatnot. They don't want overpopulation. Whereas the Teals have different policies that they kind of like immigration. But all of the independents, they're all about family values. Every single one. The Greens particularly are about family values. Mm-hmm. So if they're all going to unite, it's going to be about what does the family unit need? Okay, that's the one stronghold that all of them will unite on if they were to unite, and it actually might look like they'll have to. Okay, especially if it's too expensive to live as an Australian. Otherwise, people will just go overseas and live and work somewhere else because it's too expensive to live here.
Great answer. The only thing I can think of is 4 words which I'm not going to say.
Go on, say.
No, it's it's a Donald Trump thing.
Okay. All right, we all know
Australia. Wait, no, I'm not going to say it.
No, okay. Can't we just say we're going to make Australia greater again? Is that? Can we say that without being sued by Donald Trump? Is that a thing?
Well, you can, because you've said Australia, not America. And there's a clear difference between the country America and there's a clear difference between the country Australia.
I think you guys have brought up some valuable points.
We're not going to say let's make Australia worse again. I mean, if I wanted that, I wouldn't even change my vote.
All right, here's the last question to us, which I'm going to chuck to subscribers and viewers as well. Let us know in the comments below. Here we go. Last one for the night. Do you think this election will be a clean sweep or a fight to the bitter end, Leon?
The way things are going, I think it might be a fight right to the end. Generally, when it comes to an election, you look at Tasmania. Now, the reason why you look at Tasmania is because federally, it's divided in 2. So whoever gets one half of it will get the other half as well. That's one thing you look at. As far as Queensland goes, you probably say that would be a gimme for the LNP and Peter Dutton, because Peter Dutton is a Queenslander. He'll be very popular with the Queensland vote. It's definitely going to have to come down to Western Australia, because it's a 3-hour time difference for starters, and unlike the voice referendum, that we knew which way it was going to go before it even closed. We knew what the result was before it even closed. So, it's probably going to come down. It'll definitely. I think it'll come down to maybe South Australia and Northern Territory, maybe, or even Victoria, maybe. But Western Australia, that's gonna be the one. And when the election comes around, it's probably going to be a very late night to figure out who's going to be the next Prime Minister of Australia, or returning a Prime Minister of Australia. And by that I mean Anthony Albanese, who is the current Prime Minister. So I think they'll be going very. I think both the opposition leader and the Prime Minister will be campaigning heavily in Western Australia. I don't see them going to. I don't know. It's really hard to say. I'd say Western Australia, but I think we're going to be in for a long night when that happens.
Good answer. Luna, do you think this election will be a clean sweep or a fight to the bitter end?
100% it's going to be a fight. The lines of what holds the future for Australia is the most detrimental and important points for anyone who's going to run. Number one, Australians, like I said, everyone's sick of feeling divided. People are sick of cost of living. People are sick of not being able to do this, do that, whatever it is. Whoever's going to run really needs to bring their game, bring a strategy, start going to their books now, start, make up an imaginary budget. Show us what you can bring to the table, because we have to select someone at the end of the day, but do we have to be happy about that choice? No. If they want us to be happy about that choice, then bring some game, bring some choices for us, bring some plans, show some strategies. And if you're going to do that, then it's going to be an easy win for you. If you're not going to do that, then this whole election is going to be a fight. This one's going to say this thing, this one's going to say this thing, then this one's going to say this thing, this one's going to say. It's going to be like American politics, the back and forth, high school childhoodness of it, whatever, immaturity, I should say, will come out, and we'll see a lot of trash talk. We'll see a lot of
Negative ad campaigns.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see a lot of propaganda happening, negative campaigns. And at the end of the day, do we want a prime minister that's going to focus on trashing down the other side, or do we want a prime minister that's going to show us what they can do to help our country? Exactly. At the end of the day, these people like to sugarcoat stuff, and it's definitely going to be a fight. I just see it now. Australia's always difficult in this way, so why not now as well?
Exactly, great answer. Buckets for the last question for the night. Do you think this election will be a clean sweep or a fight to the bitter end?
I think it's going to be a clean sweep, if you want my honest opinion. Yes, they will fight to the bitter end. However, there are people that would have supported the Labor Party to the absolute end, to the absolute bitter end, like myself, that are literally jumping ship because they cannot handle the cost of living under this government. They cannot handle the fact that Albanese simply just does not care. They cannot handle the fact that all the politicians are basically living these lavish lives whilst everyone else is on the streets living in tents because they can't afford to pay the rent. Okay, it honestly, in my opinion, it'll be a conservative clean sweep, and if it's not a conservative clean sweep, it'll be an independent / conservative clean sweep. And I think for the first time, the Greens might actually support the Liberal Party over the Labor Party for the first time.
I think that was kind of clear at the by-election when the Greens didn't really help at all in that recent by-election over there in Victoria, and the Greens took a massive swing against them. So did the Labor Party. They took a swing against them in that by-election as well. But I think it's also going to come down to the marginal seats. And I've just had a look. Thank you very much to Anthony Green, who is ABC's political personnel there. They definitely want to look at the marginal seats. Now, as far as that goes, if you flip a few marginal seats, like if the ALP were to lose, say, I'm just pointing this out in nerd talk here. If they lose Gilmore, Lyon, Langiari, that's in New South Wales, Tasmania, and the Northern Territory, they've lost their majority already because they only won 2 seats at last year's federal election. But at the same token, the LNP, they've got to worry about Deakin, which is in Victoria, Sturt in South Australia, Moore in Western Australia, and also Menzies in Victoria. These seats that I have mentioned, these 7 seats that I have mentioned, all have a swing of under 1%. Now, if those swings go either way, those seats will more than likely determine the next election.
I think for me, this is going to be a fight to the bitter end. And the reason why I say that is because Leon and Luna have brought up similar cases where there's going to be negative ad campaigns running. They're going to send out pamphlets. They're going to come to people's, suburbs. They're going to start confusing people. They're going to want donations for their campaigns. They're going to do a bluegrass thing. Then we're never going to stop hearing about it. Radio stations are going to go off about it. But the thing is, for me, what I predict could happen, and I could be wrong, but WA and South Australia have always been a red state, and that red state is Labor. But for my prediction, if this is going to be a fight to the nastiest of bitter ends, a bloodbath, Liberal is going to take WA and South Australia and Queensland. This will be the first historic move in a long time that the Liberal Party are going to come out swinging. And if they take WA and South Australia, Labor Party's finished. They're done. Toast.
And it's actually interesting, Leon, that you mentioned Tasmania, because Tasmania has always been traditionally a conservative state. It's only been in the last election that it's actually turned Labor, but they literally have no problem turning back to conservative because Tasmania pretty much survives off business because it's such a small state. And as much as it wants to be its own country, it actually does rely on business to survive. So,
And you mentioned Tasmania, that has a swing to the Liberals of 1.4%. So that's not exactly a safe seat over there in Bass. So if I was the Prime Minister, if I was Anthony Albanese, I would go looking at Bass in Tasmania. Bass in Tasmania, I should say. I would look at that because it's not quite a marginal seat, but if there was a swing on, that seat would go. That seat would flip.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know how busy you guys are. Luna and Leon, thank you, Buckets, for this. We hope you guys have had an informative night. To all Australians, please let us know in the comments below your thoughts and feelings on this. And thank you so much for watching us. We appreciate the love. Keep subscribing and don't forget to click the bell. We're also on Spotify and Anchor.fm. Look out for us and leave us some comments. We'll give you shout outs to say thank you so much. And yeah, just keep on subscribing. It's the only way you're going to find out what we're up to next. Next week, I have a brand new fun topic for you. Until then, peace, love, stay safe wherever you are. Good night. And thank you for watching. See you later.
bye.
Bye.